Okay, quick question. When you are driving and you hit a red light, a total stop, what's your immediate physical reaction? Be honest.
Oh, it's instant stress every single time. My hands grip the wheel a little tighter. I check my watch. I start thinking about all the time I'm losing.
Right.
And if I'm really on edge, I might, yell at the windshield a little, which does nothing, obviously. Anxiety is just, it's the default reaction to stop.
It really is. It's the ultimate stop sign on our freeway of ambition.
Yeah.
But what if I told you that red light is actually a green light?
Okay.
It's just in disguise. And what if the mandatory stop, the pain, the failure, is the only thing that actually sets you up for success later on? You
Yeah.
just have to wait long enough for the color to change.
That sounds really nice. It sounds like a great bumper sticker, but my gut reaction is just that's easy for him to say. He's a movie star. He has a safety net to wait for any light he wants.
And that skepticism, that immediate resistance you're feeling, that is exactly what we are going to decode today. Welcome to this deep dive. We are treating Matthew McConaughey's book, Greenlights, not as some celebrity memoir. We're treating it as a philosophical manual on something he calls outlaw logic.
Okay, that sounds like you're just making up your own rules as you go.
That's exactly. It's this idea that if it wasn't true, it ought to be. It's a self-made philosophy. It's about believing in the story you're writing for yourself, even if it defies logic. Our whole mission here is to figure out how to, as he says, get relative with the inevitable.
That sounds like some high-level jargon. What does that actually mean for, me sitting in traffic?
It means accepting the facts you absolutely cannot change, the stops, the losses, the consequences,
Yeah.
but, and this is the key, aggressively choosing your reaction to them.
So you don't control the weather, but you choose the jacket.
Perfect. You don't control the stop, but you control what you do during the stop.
All right, I can work with that. So let's get into the core analogy, because this traffic signal thing is like central to his whole view. Define those three lights for us.
Okay, so green lights are the easy ones.
Yeah.
That's the flow, success, when everything just feels effortless. He calls it the art of running downhill.
Meaning don't mess it up.
Right. When things are going well, the only challenge is not to trip yourself up by getting lazy or, arrogant.
And the yellow light, that's the pivot point. It's the caution sign, the moment you have to make a decision before you hit a wall, like when he quit romantic comedies.
A perfect example. That was an intentional yellow light. And then, of course, you have the red light.
Yeah.
The stop, pain, tragedy, loss. The moment we all hate.
Right.
But this is where the philosophy takes a really radical turn. Because he argues that sometimes a red light turns green right in front of your eyes.
You're talking about his parents, aren't you? They're famously chaotic relationship.
I am. They had these, legendary bloody fights. And not metaphorical blood. We're talking his dad waving a ketchup bottle like a weapon and his mom circling him with a kitchen knife.
That's an image of pure catastrophe, a red light of epic proportions.
Absolutely. A total, immediate, painful stop to any kind of normal family life. But then, as the story goes, they'd meet in this animal embrace on the messy floor and, well, make love.
So the red light turned green.
A red light turned green. The chaos, the catastrophe would flip right back into connection and intimacy. It's a paradox.
That's a wild story, but I struggle to apply that to my own life when I'm facing a huge career setback or loss. It just feels catastrophic. It feels final. I'm not feeling any love coming out of that stop.
Because you're looking at it right now, in the moment, when it's always red. And that brings us to the first key analogy, which really defines the whole outlook, the rearview mirror.
Okay, explain that.
The red light is painful in the moment. It's a crisis. All you can see is the bright red glare of the brake lights in front of you. But the goal is to look in the rearview mirror, which gives you distance.
Temporal distance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The pain you felt 5, maybe 10 years ago, that job you got fired from, that heartbreak, that's the thing that forced you off the highway and onto some scenic route you hated at the time.
Yeah, okay. But that scenic route is what actually led me to where I am today, which is a better place.
Precisely. The stop forced a different, better path. The challenge is having the faith, the outlaw logic, to believe that the red glare you're in right now will eventually look green in that rearview mirror.
That reframing helps, because a lot of his early life seems like one giant forced stop. I'm thinking about that year he spent in Australia. That must have felt permanently red.
Oh, it was a total crucible. He went there expecting, Sydney, beaches, surfing.
And he got what? Warnervale?
Yeah.
Washing dishes?
He got Warnervale, with the very eccentric Dooley family. He was washing dishes, listening to these long lectures on wine, and fending off the mom, Marjorie, who tried to make him kiss her niece on the lippies.
And he lost everything. His straight A's, his most handsome title, his truck, his girlfriend. He was down to, what, 130 pounds? Totally alone. That sounds awful.
It was a year of just profound misery and isolation.
See, and I struggle with that. How is a year of forced misery a good thing? But again, that's easy for him to say. He's a movie star. He can afford that kind of developmental misery.
I get the hesitation. I really do. But he argues that that misery created the tension he needed for form. He had this realization that individuality needs resistance. The earth needs gravity. Without resistance, it's all just chaos.
So we need something to push against.
We do. When you want to launch something forward with maximum force, you don't push it. You have to pull it backward into deep, uncomfortable restriction. You hold it there against the tension.
And the miserable year in Australia was him being pulled back in the slingshot.
That's it. That deep, isolating red light was the restriction that generated the tension he needed to shoot forward later on. The red light wasn't preventing him from going forward. It was loading the momentum.
And he was forced to figure out who he was because everything else was stripped away.
Exactly. And this is where the outlaw logic kicks in. He said around day 148, he realized his stubborn refusal to call the Dooleys mom and pop wasn't just, a cultural thing. It was a stand. It was for his own identity, his survival. And that clarity gave him the foundation to move forward.
Okay, identity through resistance. I get the metaphor. But let's be real about his career. He still needed a lucky break. He comes back, goes to film school, and then just happens to get cast as Wooderson in Dazed and Confused. That's pure luck. Right place, right time.
Well, that's where we have to challenge the definition of luck. McConaughey would say that luck is when preparation meets opportunity. He wasn't just, sitting around waiting for the phone to ring. He was directing short films. He was reading The Greatest Salesman in the World. He was doing the work.
But the Wooderson role itself, that famous all right line, that wasn't in the script. It was improvised. How does preparation account for that?
Because the preparation gave him the freedom. He had 10 days to prep for that part. And he didn't focus on lines. He focused on defining his man. He knew Wooderson's DNA.
Loved his car, getting high, rock and roll, and chicks.
Exactly. He knew his man so deeply that when the moment came, he could just be Wooderson. The iconic words just came out of his gut because the foundation was there.
So the prep wasn't about the script. It was about internalizing the soul of the character.
Which brings us to our next analogy. Surfing. The wave, that's the open roll in the movie. The wave comes from the ocean. That's luck. That's the opportunity. But if you haven't spent years paddling and learning how to balance, the wave just crushes you.
It doesn't lift you up.
It just crushes you.
Yeah.
You have to be ready to ride the wave when it comes. And he was ready.
Okay, so we accept the stops, we prepare for the opportunities. This is starting to sound like a pretty disciplined way of living.
It is. And a big part of that discipline is confronting truth. He talks about accepting reality, even the ugly parts, instead of calling things unbelievable.
Why does he hate that word so much? We all say it. That was unbelievable.
Because if you call your success unbelievable, you're basically denying your own potential. You're saying it was a fluke.
Yeah.
And if you call a tragedy unbelievable, you're denying reality. You're denying that pain is just on the menu of life. His family's rule was the truth is only offensive when we're lying.
Right, like that story about the stolen pizza.
Exactly. He confessed to his dad, and he got punished, sure. But the real crime wasn't stealing the pizza, it was the lying. Confessing, admitting fault, that was everything. It creates a foundation of reality.
And you see that play out later. When he and Camila told his mom about the first pregnancy, what did she do?
She hung up on them, said, no, this is out of order. A total red light of rejection in that moment.
Wow, that's gotta hurt.
For sure. But a few minutes later, she called back. She accepted the reality, even if she didn't like the order of it, and she offered a whiteout, a do-over. She chose to move forward with the truth instead of denying it.
That's resilience, to just accept the consequences, even if they're inconvenient.
Which is our next analogy, the menu. Life is a restaurant. There are things on the menu. Don't be shocked by what's on your plate, whether it's, the side effects of some medicine or a tragedy life serves up. You have to eat what's on your plate before you can order something new.
Okay, I'm following the philosophy. But the anxiety is still there, that red light anxiety. So how do I, a regular person, start actually creating more green lights? What's the practical, actionable takeaway here?
The core action is moving from being less impressed, more involved.
Okay, what does that mean?
It means you have to stop looking at things from the wide shot, the fantasy, the romance of an idea,
Yeah.
and you have to move into the close-up, the reality, the definition, the ownership.
Give me an example.
His career.
Yeah.
He intentionally created a red light when he quit rom-coms. He was just impressed by the paycheck and the fun locations. He wasn't truly involved. He looked at everything he was doing. Family, his foundation, acting, a production company, a music label.
He was spread too thin, the classic problem.
Exactly. And he realized he was getting B's in all 5 areas. He didn't want to be impressed by how much he was doing. He wanted to be involved enough to get A's. So he created a red light, a sabbatical, and shut down 2 of those companies.
That takes some serious courage, to just turn off 2 income streams for the sake of focus.
It was about simplifying to liberate. That red light, that period of quiet, allowed him to reset, to pivot his entire brand, and eventually take on the work he's known for now.
Yeah.
Dallas Buyers Club, True Detective. Clarity comes from subtraction.
And this wide shot to close-up idea also applies to his relationship, right?
Totally. When he first saw his wife, Camila, in a club, she was an impression, just this beautiful woman across the room. The wide shot, he's about to just wave her over, the passive approach.
Right.
But his mom's voice popped into his head, that outlaw logic, and it told him, this is not the type of woman you wave over. Get your ass up and go introduce yourself. He chose involvement over impression. He chose the close-up, the risk, the reality. And that led to marriage and family.
That's a great distinction. We spend so much time being impressed with the fantasy of things, we forget we actually have to get off the sidelines and get involved.
And here's the last analogy for that. The statue. Stop just looking at the statue of the hero, the famous actor, the successful person, and being impressed.
Start building your own statue.
Start building your own. Stop being a critic in the theater. Start writing the script. Involvement means owning the work, including all the red light moments of grinding and frustration.
It sounds exhausting, but rewarding.
It's the whole deal.
Yeah.
He realized that for a long time, things just happened to him. But once he decided to live his legacy now and to, plant the garden, the butterflies started coming to him. He didn't have to chase them anymore.
You earn belief in yourself first.
And then you earn it from others. Red lights don't last forever. They eventually turn green when you persist, when you find the resistance you need.
That idea, planting the garden instead of chasing the butterflies.
Yeah.
Choosing to be involved in the hard work. That's the part that's really going to stick with me.
So as you think about all this whole idea of outlaw logic, I want you to consider this. Think about the worst red light in your life from, say, 5 years ago. That thing that felt like a catastrophic final stop. Has it turned green yet? What positive path did that painful stop actually force you onto?
If you want to keep upgrading your brain, click the video on the left. We've selected another deep dive just for you. And hit that logo to subscribe to Nonfiction Insights for your daily dose of wisdom. See you in the next video.